In the shadows of the asteroid belt, a crew of mercenaries takes a high-stakes job to steal a volatile isotope. But nothing goes as planned. Betrayals mount, and the line between survival and sabotage begins to blur. This is Carbon Dogs. Welcome back, traveler. Before we set course tonight, take a second to anchor us. A thumbs up or a comment is like a signal ping through the void. It lets me know someone's out there. And if you feel like journeying with us again, subscribing opens the hatch to all future missions. Dim the lights. Get comfortable. Tonight we drift into the unknown. Chapter 1. Burn fast, die forgotten. You don't think much about heat when you live in the belt. Cold becomes the only thing you can count on. Not just the absence of warmth, but a silence, a waiting. It finds its way into the weld lines of your ship, into the tendons of your fingers, into the spaces behind your eyes where dreams used to live. The kind of cold that makes you forget the feel of a sunrise. Rowan Vega had spent years inside that cold, long enough that he stopped missing the warmth, long enough that it became something else, something honest, something permanent. He sat in the pilot's chair of a rust-worn cargo scow, watching the shadows of Ceres fall across the stars like a curtain. The station's docks blinked dimly in the distance, half the lights blown or scavenged for parts. Everything out here was in a state of slow decay. Like the people. He reached into the side pocket of his jacket and pulled out a faded photograph, creased, burned along one corner. 3 faces looked back at him, all gone now. Or worse, Rowan stared at it, unmoving, until the nav console chirped. A signal. He let the photo fall onto the dash and leaned forward, brushing dust off the receiver. The screen flickered, lines of encrypted code rolling past in blood-red font. Cipher, red iron source, lock K. Priority, immediate. Rowan stared at the name for a long moment. Then he exhaled a slow breath, the kind that felt like it came from somewhere lower than his lungs. Kyrene Locke. It had been 6 years, long enough that he'd stopped flinching when he heard her name. Almost. He tapped the console, the message decrypted in chunks. No greeting, no pleasantries. Just a set of coordinates, a docking bay on Ceres, and one line of text. Got work. Big payout. You'll want in. Rowan leaned back in his seat and stared at the endless dark outside his viewport. He should have ignored it. Should have stayed in orbit, let the job pass him by like 100 others. But he didn't. Instead, he powered up the thrusters and keyed in the descent vector, watching Ceres slowly rise to meet him. Burn fast, die forgotten, he muttered to no one. Carbon dogs never learn. And with that, the ship turned toward the lights of the outpost, and the past began to close its teeth around him. Chapter 2. The Gravedust Offer. Ceres' mining outpost was a monument to entropy. From orbit, it looked like a tumor grafted onto the side of an asteroid. Dozens of docking arms, exhaust-stained and rust-pocked, jutting out from the surface like snapped bones. Beneath the plating, a honeycomb of repurposed mining tunnels and sealed industrial catacombs, full of flickering light and recycled air. The core ran on ancient fusion coils and bureaucracy too stubborn to die. Rowan stepped off the docking lift and into the outpost's commercial ring. The air smelled like old metal and fried starch, with just a hint of coolant leak underneath. Crowds moved like fluid, miners on leave, haulers selling scrap, fixers watching from shadowed alcoves. The lower rings of Ceres always had a rhythm to them, like an engine running just off tune. You could feel it in your ribs if you stood still long enough. Rowan didn't. He passed broken hollow signs advertising out-of-date drugs and Martian escorts. One flickered to life as he walked by, glitching between a woman's face and a corporate logo, voice stuttering, Serenity Solutions. Your pain, our profit. He turned into a side corridor where the noise dulled to a low mechanical hum. Ahead, an old pressure door hung crooked in its frame. Above it, a flickering sign barely legible through the grime. The Gravedust bar. He pushed through. Inside, the bar was a long metal tube turned sideways. Low ceiling, soft orange lighting, booths recessed into bulkhead alcoves. Most of the patrons looked like they lived here. The kind of people who knew how to kill you with a bolt driver and hide the body in a recycling chute. Roan spotted her instantly. Kyrin Locke hadn't changed much. Same short-cropped black hair, same old bomber jacket with the stitched silver phoenix curling up one sleeve. She sat at the far end of the bar, boots on the rail, drink in hand. Her eyes tracked him as he approached, unreadable as ever. "You're late," she said without turning. Roan slid onto the stool beside her. "I had to convince my ship not to fall apart during re-entry." "Again?" Kyrin smirked. "Still flying that antique? She's older than half the belt and more reliable. Sounds like your type." They didn't smile. Not really. Not yet. He glanced down at her drink, something black and steaming in a metal cup. Didn't know they still served liquefied coal. Only on special occasions. She turned toward him then, eyes dark, sharp. He saw the lines that hadn't been there before, the weight behind them. "You didn't come here just to exchange insults," he said. "No," she replied. "I came to offer you a job." Roan exhaled through his nose and leaned back. "You vanished 6 years ago with half the take from the Coron heist, and no warning. Now you're offering me work?" "I'm offering you money," she said evenly. "And purpose. You still care about that second one, right?" Roan didn't answer. She slid a data wafer across the bar. He picked it up and tapped it to his wrist console. The screen blinked to life, schematics, orbital maps, a series of access codes. Zhurong Station, a Martian mining outpost in the mid-belt, isotope facility, high security. "You want to hit a Martian core refinery," he said, eyes narrowing. "I want to steal something from it. Quietly, in and out, no fireworks. It's not even fully guarded, civilian staff mostly. The payload is isolated." Roan scrolled through the data, silent. Then, "This isn't just a job. Not with this target." Kyrin turned her drink slowly in her hands. "No," she said, "it's not." He looked at her again. "Who's the buyer?" Her mouth twitched, almost a smile. "Does it matter?" "It does if they're Earthside, or military, or both." "High-level independent," she said. "Untraceable, off-grid. They're paying in water rights and hydrogen futures. It's real, Roan. This could buy you a new life." He looked back at the schematics. At the orbital path of Zhurong Station, like a sliver of opportunity threading the void. "How big is the crew?" he asked. 5. "You, me, Kibo, a new tech named Mira, and Stitch." Roan blinked. "Stitch is still alive?" "Barely." He slid the wafer back to her. "Why now?" Kyrin didn't flinch. "Because I can't trust anyone else to fly the job clean. And because I knew you'd say yes." Roan stared down at the empty glass in front of him, as if it might offer a reason not to. He didn't find one. Finally he stood. "I'll need fuel and a clean transponder." "Already arranged." He started walking. Before he reached the door, she called out, "You ever wonder what would have happened if we'd gone through with it?" "Back on Valles," he paused, hand on the doorframe. "Every day." Then he left. Behind him, the bar swallowed the silence whole. Chapter 3. Crew of Stray Orbits. The docking bay where Kyrin's ship waited was deep in Ceres' shadow sectors, where security scans were thinner and station control tended to look the other way. The overhead lamps flickered in slow pulses, illuminating a long black hull marked by dozens of unregistered repair scars. The Brimstone. She wasn't pretty, but she had teeth. Roan stepped onto the loading ramp and immediately caught the smell of ozone and welding gas. Somewhere up ahead, someone was cutting through something they weren't supposed to. "Back so soon?" came a voice from the shadows. Roan turned just in time to catch Kibo Sant leaning out of a cargo alcove. His grin was all teeth, his scalp shaved, a cluster of biomod ports glinting along his temple. "You still owe me 2 suits and a barrel of rations from the Haifeng job," Kibo said, striding over with a swagger that could only come from surviving 100 jobs and learning nothing from any of them. "I owe you nothing," Roan replied. "Sure you do, but I'll settle for a drink and a death-defying getaway. It's good to see you, Vega. I heard you joined a monastery." "I tried, got excommunicated." Kibo clapped him on the shoulder hard enough to jostle a filling. "Welcome back to Sin." From deeper inside the ship came a staccato clatter, metal on metal, followed by a muffled string of profanities. "That'll be Stitch," Kibo said. "He's in the engine bay, communing with the drive core, or possibly losing another finger." Roan followed the sound. Win Stitch Halleck looked like someone had tried to build a man out of leftover ship parts. Lean, jittery, and always wrapped in some half-melted pressure suit with exposed cabling. His left hand was mechanical up to the elbow, and his right eye flickered erratically. A yellow data lens wired directly into his brainstem. When Roan appeared in the doorway, Stitch didn't look up. "You bring coolant?" he asked. "No." "Then shut up. She's bleeding plasma, and I'm doing 6 jobs with 5 fingers." "You always did like the challenge." Stitch grunted and leaned back from the mess of wires and couplings. His face was slick with sweat and grease. "They tell you what we're carrying?" "Not yet." "Good. Don't ask, I don't want to know. Every time I know, someone gets spaced or worse." "Worse than spaced. Emotionally invested." Roan chuckled despite himself. It was a dead sound. Kyrin's voice came over the internal communication. "Briefing in 5. Cargo Bay 2. Bring whatever sanity you've got left." The crew gathered around a portable holodisplay set up near a row of cryo crates. Overhead, the lights buzzed low. The brimstone hummed like something was stirring just beneath its hull. Kyrin stood at the center, hands clasped behind her back. "This is Zhurong Station," she said. The display flared to life, blueprints, orbital maps, rotating 3D images. Martian-owned mining platform, Mid-Belt. They extract deuterium and helium-3 from asteroid slurry. One of the lower-risk targets, civilian contracts, half the security budget of a union-backed rig. But they've got one thing worth stealing. She flipped the image. A compact silver canister appeared, suspended in 0G by a magnetic cradle. Isotope Black-16, stabilized version of a quantum burn compound used in deep core ignition. Very illegal outside of Mars. One container like this could run a moon for 6 months. Or wipe out an outpost. Roan leaned forward. "So why hasn't it been moved?" "It's in testing, prototype, not logged in central inventory yet. Our window is 4 days. After that, they transfer it to Martian security at Vantage Point." "And the buyer?" Kyrin didn't blink. "Irrelevant. You're being paid in helium futures, processed water, and crypto backed by Phobos debt markets. It'll clear." "Who's our 5th?" Roan asked. Kyrin turned slightly. From the shadows stepped a small, poised figure, barely into her 20s maybe. Her jet-black hair was tied back tight. No tattoos, no scars. Not yet. "This is Mira Chen," Kyrin said. "Systems infiltration, soft kill specialist. Just finished 2 runs out past Europa doing salvage for the Juno cartel." Mira nodded once. Her eyes met Roan's with an unsettling stillness. "You're the pilot," she said. Roan nodded. "You're the mystery." "I don't like talking." "You'll fit right in." Kairin cut in. We jump in on the blind side of Zhurong's orbit. Dock as a water filtration team. They cycle new contractors through every 6 days. Mira handles the signal scrubbing. Kibo keeps the Martian guards busy with a fake ID purge. Stitch monitors the core shielding. Roan gets us in, gets us out. Roan glanced around. What's the fallback? Kairin's face hardened. There isn't one. A silence settled in, the kind that didn't feel temporary. We launch in 12 hours, she said. Stash your regrets, pack your suits. She left the holo display running and walked off without another word. Kibo whistled low. Well, he said, that felt optimistic. Roan watched Mira for a moment longer. Something about her didn't sit right. Not her youth, not her silence. It was her eyes. They looked like someone who'd already lost something and hadn't decided whether she wanted it back. Chapter 4. Ghost Codes at Zhurong. The Brimstone approached Zhurong Station in the shadow of asteroid 221 Gaia, running dark. Roan sat strapped into the pilot's chair, eyes fixed on the approach vector as artificial gravity ticked lower with each deceleration burn. Outside, Zhurong rotated lazily on its axis, like a steel blister fused to the jagged edge of a mined-out rock. Martian markings lined the docking pylons. 2 automated sentry drones hovered in standby mode, unmoving in the void. In range, Roan said into the comm. Mira stood behind him, her hands hovering above the navigation console, flickers of light from her wrist implant reflecting in her pupils. I've looped their docking beacon, she said. We're registering as filter unit 4-D, inbound from the Triton ice bank. Roan arched a brow. That actually exists? Mira didn't look up. It does now. Kibo's voice crackled through the internal comm from cargo hold 2. Got the suits prepped. I even ironed mine. Roan toggled the channel off. Final burn in 3, 2. The thrusters hissed, braking the ship hard. The magnetic clamps of Zhurong's docking arm C caught them with a loud clang, rattling the hull. Gravity adjusted. Airlock seals engaged. They were docked. The docking tunnel extended like a spinal column, a long ribbed tube connecting the Brimstone to Zhurong's auxiliary maintenance bay. They stepped through it one by one, Roan, Kairin, Mira, Kibo, and Stitch, dressed in grey utility suits and carrying falsified Martian contractor tags. Inside, the station smelled of sterilized dust and ammonia. Bright halogen lights hummed overhead. Gravity was just below Earth norm, enough to make every step feel like walking through a memory. Roan scanned the corridor. No guards, no alarms, just the distant drone of machinery. A young logistics officer met them at the checkpoint, nervous, overworked. Barely glanced at their IDs before waving them through. Filtration control is 2 levels down, he mumbled. Don't touch anything labeled sensitive operations and don't fall behind schedule. Station director's breathing fire after the last crew overloaded the purifier cores. Kibo flashed a fake grin. We're professionals. Once they were in the lower maintenance corridor, Kairin's voice dropped. We're in. Mira, you're up. Mira peeled off from the group and dropped into a side conduit. Her implant blinked as she synced to the station's network. We've got 20 minutes before the next system audit. That's your window. Cargo Bay 11, Sub-Level 3. Isotopes stored in a locked magnetic cradle. No human guards posted, just drones. I can loop too, but the third is analog guarded. You'll have to go old school. Kairin looked to Roan. You and Stitch come with me. Kibo, hold position at the filtration deck and keep the comm line open. Mira, stay plugged in. Roan followed Kairin and Stitch down a secondary shaft, his boots whispering against the grated floor. The walls here were tight, oppressive, lined with bundled cables and radiation shielding panels. Zhurong had been designed for function, not comfort, not even humanity. Stitch muttered to himself as they walked, tapping data pings into a handheld pad. Containment cradles rigged with a proximity alert. We get within 10 meters, it flags the local AI. Thought this place was analog, Roan said. Mostly, they didn't trust this stuff to meat brains alone. They reached Cargo 11. The door was a vault, thick, rusting, with biometric locks glowing blue in the dark. Stitch crouched. "Give me 30 seconds. He popped open a panel and started slicing wires like a surgeon in a panic. Roan kept watch. "Something's wrong," he said quietly. "What isn't?" Chiron replied. Roan didn't respond. He couldn't shake it. The way the station felt, too quiet, too clean. Like a room someone just left in a hurry. The lock clicked. The door slid open. Inside, a containment cradle hovered in magnetic suspension, ringed by hard light barriers. And there it was, a cylindrical pod, silver and matte black, about half the size of a man. No labels, no registration, just a single etched symbol. Delta-16. Roan stepped in slowly. The room was cold, the kind of cold that didn't come from failing life support, but from purpose. Chiron opened her bag and pulled out the stabilization case. "Help me," she said. They moved together in practiced silence. Stitch adjusted the grav clamps, while Roan disabled the cradle's sensor field. The isotope dropped neatly into their arms. It was too easy. That's when the lights cut out. Red emergency glow filled the corridor. Sirens remained silent, but Roan's gut screamed. Mira's voice came through the comm. "They know, someone tipped them off. A command lockdown just initiated from the main server core. You've got incoming." Kibo shouted over a second channel, "Pressure seals are engaging across the filtration deck. I've got boots moving in. 4, maybe 5. They're armed." Chiron swore. "Mira, override the dock lockdown." "I'm trying, but..." Her voice cut for a moment, then came back, distorted. "We've got a second signal, scrambled, off station. Roan, I think someone's tracking you, not us. You." Roan's blood turned to ice, then from behind them, boots on metal. 2 shapes in armored suits stepped into the corridor, rifles raised. Stitch dropped the case. Roan didn't think. He slammed the panel beside the emergency hatch, pulled Chiron through it, grabbed the case, and dove headfirst into the chute. Gunfire erupted behind him, sharp and loud in the tight corridor. They tumbled through maintenance tunnels like rats in a pipe. Roan didn't know who had betrayed them, but he was starting to suspect the buyer wasn't who they thought it was. And someone, maybe more than one, wasn't on the crew by accident. Chapter 5: Vesta's Broken Bargain. The brimstone bucked as it detached from Zhurong's docking arm, emergency clamps hissing in protest. Roan gritted his teeth, pulling the stick hard to starboard. The station receded rapidly in the viewport, red light spilling from its hull like blood in vacuum. Behind them, no pursuit. Not yet. Kibo's voice filled the bridge. "We clear." "Mostly," Roan replied. "A few drones scrambled, but they're not chasing. Either they don't want to cause a panic, or they're waiting for someone bigger to follow us. Like Martian Navy. Like whoever we just pissed off." Chiron stood behind him, holding the isotope case in her gloved hands like it might detonate. Her knuckles were white. "Get us dark," she said. Roan flipped switches, killing beacon signatures and switching the ship to cold ops. The cabin dimmed. Life support fell to minimum. They were ghosts now, just another rock tumbling through space. In the quiet that followed, Mira walked onto the bridge. Her face was calm. Too calm. Roan looked at her without speaking. "You want to ask," she said. "About what?" "Why the Martians locked us down 2 minutes before we got to the cradle." Kairin cut in. You said you scrubbed the signals, that we had 20 minutes. I did, Mira said. I looped their systems, buried our ID packet. Someone overrode from outside. I traced the command signal. It was routed through a ghost satellite. Not Martian, not corporate either. Roan narrowed his eyes. Earth? Mira didn't answer. Kibo appeared in the doorway, bruised and breathless. I left a gift in the air recyclers. Might slow them down if they try to launch. Where the hell are we headed? Kairin turned to Roan. Nearest shadow port. Vesta, Roan said reluctantly. We can hide in the tunnels. Sell the isotope there if we find a buyer who doesn't ask questions. Stitch's voice crackled over the ship-wide communication. That crate you're cuddling might be hot, by the way. Kairin picked up the call. Define hot. There's an embedded transmitter on the isotope housing. Not standard issue, buried behind the magnetic shielding. I almost didn't catch it. Roan looked sharply at Mira. She met his gaze evenly. I didn't know. If I had, I'd have killed it before we left. Unless you're lying, Roan said. Kibo held up a hand. Whoa, whoa. Let's not go spacing each other just yet. We need to dump the signal, Roan said. Kairin nodded. Stitch? I can isolate it and rig a ghost loop. Make it look like we split in 6 directions. Buy us time. Do it. Later, Roan stood alone in the observation deck, watching space crawl past in total silence. Mira appeared behind him, her reflection a ghost in the glass. You think I set you up, she said. I think the timing was too perfect. I think you want someone to blame. Roan turned to face her. You're too young to be this cold. Mira didn't blink. I'm old enough to know the universe doesn't care what you think you deserve, only what you survive. Roan leaned against the bulkhead, arms crossed. Who are you really working for? She hesitated, just a flicker, but he saw it. I used to be with the Juno cartel, salvage, infiltration, extraction. That was true. But I got picked up 6 months ago by Earth Systems Oversight. They wanted someone inside the belt, someone with access. To the isotope? To Kairin, she said. Roan stiffened. What? They think she's working with a separatist cell based out of Phobos. Earth wants them broken, and they think this isotope is the key. Roan's voice dropped to a whisper. Is it? I don't know. Maybe. I just knew I had to be on this crew. I didn't expect to care what happened to it. She turned to leave. You're not going to stop me. Roan stared through the glass. The stars didn't twinkle out here. They just stared back. No, he said. Not yet. Back in the crew galley, Kibo sat sharpening a knife that didn't need sharpening. Kairin stood by the nav console, studying the approach vector to Vesta. We should cut her loose, Kibo said. Mira. She got us in. She almost got us killed. She didn't pull the trigger, Kairin said. Yet. Roan entered quiet. We land on Vesta in 6 hours, he said. Once we're in the tunnels, we figure out who the hell really owns this thing. Kairin looked up. And if it's Earth? Roan looked at the isotope case, humming faintly in its cradle. Then maybe we use it. The lights flickered once, just once, but everyone noticed, and no one said a word. Chapter 6. The Hard Burn Out. The tunnels of Vesta weren't on any public chart. They wound like arteries beneath the asteroid's iron crust, remnants of mining operations long since abandoned or buried in quiet collapses. The only light came from old sodium lamps, mounted sporadically along the walls, flickering in colors that didn't feel natural anymore. The brimstone settled into a hollowed-out chamber at the base of shaft C-99, its hull steaming from the cold. Around it, makeshift scaffolds, pressure tents, and heat exchangers buzzed. An underground enclave run by no government and governed by no law. This was Vesta's heart. dirty, half forgotten, and full of people who knew how to disappear. Roan stepped down onto the frozen ground, Mira and Chiron close behind. Kibo and Stitch remained aboard, watching systems, weapons hot. "Who's the buyer?" Rowan asked. Chiron adjusted her jacket. "Name's Halen Reese, mid-level belt broker with ties to everyone and allegiance to no one. He wants the isotope bad enough to meet in person." Roan gave a dry laugh. "People don't meet in person anymore, not unless they plan to kill you or kiss you." "Then keep your gun handy," she said. They walked through the tunnel network toward a sealed bulkhead, flanked by 2 guards in unmarked suits. One scanned them, nodded, and buzzed open the door. The room inside was warm. Too warm. Steam hissed from wall vents, fogging the ceiling. At its center sat Halen Reese, reclined in a makeshift throne made of pressure crates and armored blankets. He wore an oxygen scarf around his neck and 2 silvery rings on every finger. His smile never touched his eyes. "Chiron Locke," he said, standing. "Rowan Vega, and you've brought someone new." Mira didn't answer. "Smart," Halen said. "Younger crew, less idealism, more stomach." Chiron set the isotope case on the table between them. "Black-16, she said. "Undamaged, untraced. Yours for the agreed amount." Halen studied the case, then looked up with interest. "And yet, you bring it to me without knowing who paid to have it stolen." Chiron's jaw tightened. "I know what it's worth." "I'm sure you think you do." Roan stepped forward. "You gonna posture all day? Or are we closing this deal?" Halen turned his gaze to Roan. Something glinted there. Recognition. "You're the pilot," he said. "Vega. Vale's mutiny. I watched the feed. You crashed a Martian gunship into a refinery to protect 12 miners who didn't even know your name." Roan's expression darkened. "You didn't come here to reminisce." "No," Halen agreed, "but I do want to offer you a trade." He snapped his fingers. A screen behind him flickered to life, surveillance footage, grainy but clear. Mira, weeks earlier, speaking to someone aboard an Earth vessel. Audio was distorted, but the uniform was unmistakable. Roan turned to her. "You lied." Mira looked back, stone-faced. "I told you the truth. I just didn't tell you all of it." Chiron didn't move. Halen smiled wider now. "The girl works for Earth Systems Oversight. She wasn't after the isotope, she was after you. Or maybe her orders changed." Mira finally spoke. "I was ordered to sabotage the job, but I didn't. I burned the relay codes the moment I boarded the Brimstone." "Why?" Roan asked. "Because I believed in the crew more than the mission. Until now." Chiron stepped forward, voice like a blade. "Enough. We finish the deal, take our cut, and vanish. That was the plan." Halen shook his head. "No deal. Earth already paid me triple to stall you. You've got 20 minutes before a drone strike peels this cavern open." Roan stared at him. "So that's it? You sell us out and let the system chew up the belt one more time?" Halen shrugged. "That's the job." Roan looked at Chiron. "You knew this was a setup." She didn't deny it. "I suspected, but we were too deep to pull out. And I needed a backup plan." "What plan?" "You." Roan's heart went cold. "What the hell does that mean?" "I knew they'd come for me, but Earth still has your face on a kill list. So I gave them something they couldn't ignore, you and the isotope. Long enough for me to disappear." Mira drew her sidearm, aiming it squarely at Chiron. "You selfish bastard." Chiron didn't flinch. "I didn't tell you to come." Roan's voice was low, deadly. "You're not walking out with that crate." "You sure?" Chiron asked, tapping a comm device. "Because right now, Kibo thinks you're the traitor. And if I don't check in..." Well, let's just say Stitch's override key won't stop the hull purge I coded last night. The silence was thick. No one moved. Finally, Roan raised a hand. Mira lowered her gun. Barely. Halen clapped slowly. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. If any of you survive the next hour, come find me. We'll laugh about it. Roan walked over to the case. Then slowly he picked it up and threw it straight at the wall. The impact cracked the housing open, but not enough to leak. Just enough to make it useless for transport. The isotope inside hummed angrily, dangerously unstable if pushed any further. Kyrin stared at him, stunned. You just threw away a fortune. No, Roan said. I threw away leverage. Alarms began to sound. Mira glanced at the door. Drones inbound. Roan looked at Kyrin. You wanted to burn everything down. You just got your wish. They ran. Behind them, Halen shouted something. Weapons drew. Screams echoed. The tunnels lit up red. And the brimstone powered to life. Chapter 7. In the Cold Beyond. The brimstone screamed through the Vesta tunnels like a bullet shot from a dying gun. The forward lights strobed across uneven walls and old blast doors, many still scarred from mining explosives detonated decades ago. Alarms pulsed across the emergency channel, military-grade drones inbound, zeroing in on the isotope's last known signal. Roan fought the controls, pulling hard left to avoid a collapsing tunnel. Chunks of ice and regolith slammed against the hull. One of the outer stabilizers ripped free, spinning into the dark. Flight controls gone, he said. Starboard thrusters are crippled. We can make orbit, but not clean. Clean's a myth, Mira shouted back, strapping herself into the co-pilot seat. Her cheek bled where a ricocheted round had grazed her during the firefight. Behind them, in the narrow crew corridor, Stitch was yelling about reactor pressure. Any hotter and she's gonna blow her core like it's New Year's over Europa. Kibo's voice cut through. Pressure seals holding, for now, but I'm running out of miracles. Kyrin appeared last, staggering into the cockpit, coughing smoke from her lungs. She clutched her side, blood soaking her jacket. One arm hung limp. I can pilot, Roan said. Sit. She ignored him. I need the case, she said. Where is it? Roan didn't answer. The shattered isotope pod still sat in the lower cargo bay, the containment cell half fried from the impact. Don't, he said. Kyrin stepped forward. You don't understand. Earth's not the only buyer. Mars was bidding too. I needed leverage. This wasn't just about me. No, Roan said, voice low. It was only about you. Kyrin reached for her sidearm, slower than she used to be. Roan didn't move. Mira already had her pistol half drawn, but it hung there, suspended by indecision. Kyrin wavered. Her arm dropped. Blood loss caught up to her. I didn't mean for it to end like this, she muttered, lowering herself into the auxiliary chair. We had a shot, Roan. We always did. You had a shot, he said. We just paid for it. Outside, the tunnel ended. Roan pulled hard on the yoke as the ship blasted out through a hidden shaft exit and into open space. Vesta fell away below them, shrinking fast, but the sky wasn't empty. 6 drone ships tracked their course, dark triangles illuminated only by their engine wakes. Stitch's voice came through again. I can loop the core signature, make it look like we dumped the isotope in orbit. They'll peel off to scan it. Roan blinked. And if they don't? Then we go out bright. Roan looked over at Mira. She nodded, without a word. Do it, Roan said. Stitch rerouted power to the cargo bay, flooding it with false thermal signatures. The ship jerked violently as a chunk of hull plating jettisoned outward, trailing residue from the cracked isotope casing. The ruse. For 5 long seconds, nothing changed. Then, the drones broke formation. 4 veered toward the decoy signal. Two hung back, uncertain. Roan didn't wait. He fired the auxiliary boosters, sending the brimstone slingshotting into an unstable burn toward the Jupiter gate. They didn't stop to check if they were followed. Later, the ship floated in the dark, damaged, quiet. No one spoke. Roan sat in the observation deck again, Mira across from him, her arm in a sling. "She's gone," Roan said, breaking the silence. Chiron had died 2 hours after they cleared Vesta's orbit. Internal bleeding. No med gel, no surgery kit, just a slow collapse. Mira nodded. She knew she was already dead. Roan leaned back, eyes unfocused. She thought she was saving the belt. That one last score could shift the balance. But she became the system she hated. "Didn't we all?" Mira asked. Roan didn't answer. In the corner sat the cracked isotope pod. No longer dangerous, no longer valuable, just a relic. Like all of them. "I sent the specs," Mira said, "to the unions, the resistance networks, even Earth-backed news nets." Roan raised an eyebrow. "You think it'll help?" "No," she said, "but maybe it'll hurt the right people." He stood, walking over to the pod. He stared at it a long moment. Then he opened the airlock. "No ceremony?" Roan shook his head. "We're not that kind of crew." He kicked the isotope case into the void. It spun slowly, then vanished into the black. Epilogue. They never went back to Ceres. The brimstone became a name whispered in bar rooms and smuggler dens. Some said they died at Vesta. Others said they were Martian agents, or ghosts, or Earth's own operatives turned rogue. The truth didn't matter. Out in the belt, people started asking different questions, started pulling on threads they weren't supposed to see. Something shifted. Just a little. Just enough. And in the dark between planets, a broken ship drifted quietly, its lights dimmed, its pilot wide awake, waiting for the next impossible job.